Most traders think mental resilience means pushing through the pain, forcing yourself to stay disciplined, grinding until you break through. But here's what nobody tells you. That approach is exactly why 90% of traders burn out before they ever become profitable. What I discovered studying elite performers who maintained absolute mental clarity under extreme pressure will completely flip your understanding of trading psychology. They didn't fight their fear. They practiced something called Fudoshin, observing emotions without being controlled by them. When you're staring at a losing position and your heart is racing, your instinct screams, "Close it now." But that 10-second gap between feeling panic and reacting to panic, that's where profitable traders live. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 ancient philosophies that transform your mind from a liability into your greatest edge. Not motivation, not positive thinking. A tested system for maintaining clarity when your account is bleeding red. Welcome to Trader's Bible, the quiet room for market mastery. Let's get into it. Here's the thing about emotions in trading that everyone gets backwards. You've been told to control your emotions, to stay disciplined, to be fearless. But that's not how the human brain works. You can't just delete fear or greed like files on a computer. And every time you try to suppress these emotions, you're actually making them stronger. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push, the more violently it explodes back to the surface. I learned this the hard way. 3 years ago, I was staring at a position that had gone against me by 4%. My stop loss was at 5%, but my chest felt like someone was standing on it. My hands were shaking. My mind was screaming at me to close it, to make the pain stop, to do something, anything, right now. And I did. I closed it at a 4% loss. 15 minutes later, the position reversed and would have hit my profit target. This happened 17 times in 1 month. 17 times I let panic hijack my decisions. And here's what nobody tells you. I wasn't weak. I wasn't undisciplined. My brain was doing exactly what it evolved to do: react to perceived threats with immediate action. But there's a different approach. Instead of fighting your emotions, you observe them. This is called Fudoshin, and it's the single most powerful mental tool I've discovered for trading. And think of it this way. Your emotions are weather systems. When you're in a losing trade, anxiety rolls in like a storm cloud. Most traders do one of 2 things. They either try to pretend the storm doesn't exist, or they let the storm sweep them away completely. Both approaches fail. Fudoshin is different. You acknowledge the storm is there. You feel the rain, you see the lightning, but you don't run into it. You observe it from a safe distance, knowing that all storms pass. Here's what this looks like in practice. You enter a trade on EUR/USD. Your thesis is solid. Institutional buying at a key support level. Confluence with the 200-period moving average. Risk-reward is 1 to 3. You set your stop at 50 pips, your target at 150 pips. The trade is live. Then the market drops 30 pips against you. Your account is now down $300. And that's when you feel it. The tightness in your chest, the heat rising in your face, your jaw clenching. Your inner voice starts screaming, "This trade is wrong. You're going to lose. Close it now before it gets worse." This is where most traders fail. They react immediately to that voice. They close the trade, take the loss, and then watch in agony as the market reverses exactly as their original analysis predicted. But here's the protocol that changes everything. When you feel that panic rising, you stop for exactly 10 seconds. You don't touch your mouse. You don't look at the price. You just stop. And in those 10 seconds, you do something counterintuitive. You locate the physical sensation in your body. Where is the anxiety? Is it in your chest, your throat, your stomach? You're not trying to make it go away. You're just observing it like a scientist observing data. Interesting, my chest feels tight, my heart rate is elevated. This is anxiety. Then you take one deep breath, just one, and only then, only after those 10 seconds, you ask yourself one question. Based on my trading plan, what is my next action? Notice the question isn't, what do I feel like doing? It's, what does my plan say? 9 times out of 10, your plan says, do nothing. The stop loss hasn't been hit. The thesis hasn't changed. Stay in the trade. So you do nothing. You let the anxiety sit there in your chest. You don't fight it. You don't feed it. You just observe it while your trade continues to run according to your original plan. This 10-second gap is not some motivational trick. Neuroscientists at Stanford have studied this exact process. When you pause between stimulus and response, you're strengthening your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making. At the same time, you're reducing amygdala reactivity, the part that triggers your fight or flight response. You're literally rewiring your brain to not be hijacked by emotions. The traders who master this don't have less fear than you. They just have a different relationship with their fear. They feel it completely, but they don't let it drive the car. Now here's where it gets even more powerful. Most traders waste an enormous amount of mental energy trying to control things that cannot be controlled. You spend hours analyzing the market, trying to predict the next move, trying to know what will happen. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't control what the market does. You never have. You never will. The market doesn't care about your analysis. It doesn't care about your rent payment or your profit target. The market simply moves based on millions of participants making billions of decisions, and you are not one of the variables in that equation. This is where the second philosophy comes in, Shikata Ganai. It translates to, it cannot be helped, but it means something deeper. Radical acceptance of what you cannot control. Imagine 2 circles. There's a small circle in the center. This represents everything within your control. Your entry price, your position size, your stop loss, your take profit, your risk-reward ratio, your trading plan. Then there's a large circle around it. This represents everything outside your control. The market's next move, breaking news, what other traders do. Yet whether your trade wins or loses, the economic data released tomorrow. Most traders, and I was guilty of this for years, spend 90% of their mental energy on the large circle and maybe 10% on the small circle. They obsess over where the market should go. They refresh the news constantly. They join trading chat rooms to see what everyone else thinks. They check their trades every 30 seconds. They worry about the outcome. And here's the brutal irony. All that energy spent on the large circle doesn't give you any more control over it. 0. You're exhausting yourself trying to control the uncontrollable while neglecting the only thing you actually have power over, your own execution. Let me show you what this looks like. You've analyzed gold. You see a perfect setup. Price is testing a monthly resistance level. Momentum is diverging. Volume is climbing. Your small circle variables are clear. You'll enter short at $2,050, stop loss at $2,065, target at $2,005. Risk is 1.5% of your account. Reward is 4.5%. Your risk reward is 1 to 3. Everything in your small circle is defined and executed perfectly. You enter the trade. Then the news breaks. Unexpected geopolitical tension in the Middle East. Gold spikes $30 in 2 minutes. Your stop is hit. You lose 1.5% of your account. And here's where most traders completely fall apart. They start spiraling. I should have known. I should have checked the calendar. I should have waited. This always happens to me. The market is rigged. I'm cursed. They're spending all their energy raging against the large circle, the thing they cannot control. They're fighting reality itself. But if you've internalized shikata ganai, your response is completely different. You see the stop get hit, and you simply say, it cannot be helped. You didn't control the geopolitical event. You didn't control how the market reacted to it. You couldn't have predicted it. Those variables were always in the large circle. But here's what you did control. You had a stop loss in place. You risked only 1.5% of your account. You followed your plan perfectly. Your small circle was executed flawlessly. The outcome was beyond your control from the moment you clicked sell, and you accepted that before you even entered the trade. This isn't giving up. This is liberation. When you stop wasting energy fighting the large circle, you suddenly have massive amounts of energy to focus on perfecting your small circle. You stop refreshing Twitter for market sentiment. You stop second-guessing your analysis mid-trade. You stop losing sleep over whether your open position will hit target tomorrow. Because you've accepted, once the trade is live, the outcome is shikata ganai. The only thing left to control is your exit execution according to your plan. And if you're finding value in what we're covering here, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel exists to give you the real frameworks that separate struggling traders from profitable ones. No hype, no promises of quick riches, just tested systems for building unshakable mental resilience. Now let's talk about what happens when you face the inevitable, a losing streak. Every trader experiences drawdowns, not some traders, all traders. You can have the best strategy in the world, the sharpest analysis, the most disciplined execution, and you will still hit periods where nothing works. 5 losses in a row, 10 losses in a row, your account down 15% from its peak. This is not a question of if, it's a question of when. And how you handle this moment determines whether you survive in this game or join the 90% who blow up their accounts. Most traders handle drawdowns in one of 2 ways. Either they pretend it doesn't hurt, they force a smile, post on social media about staying strong, suppress the pain, and tell themselves they're fine. Or they completely fall apart. They start revenge trading, doubling their position sizes to make it back faster, abandoning their strategy, over-leveraging, and ultimately destroying their account in a desperate attempt to escape the pain. Both approaches are disasters. The first creates a pressure cooker that eventually explodes. The second is immediate self-destruction. But there's a third way, gamen. This translates to persevering through suffering with dignity. It's not about pretending the loss doesn't hurt. It's not about being tough or emotionless. It's about feeling the pain completely while refusing to let that pain break you. Let me tell you what this actually looks like. 2 years ago, I hit the worst drawdown of my trading career. I was down 22% over 6 weeks. Every setup I took failed. Breakouts reversed, support levels collapsed. My win rate went from 65% to 31%. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with my heart pounding, my mind replaying every losing trade, every mistake, every doubt I'd ever had about whether I could actually do this. One night I sat in my car in a parking lot after a particularly brutal trading session, 3 consecutive stop-outs in one day, and I cried. Not a few tears. I'm talking about the kind of crying where you can't breathe, where your whole body shakes. Because it hurt, the losses hurt, the self-doubt hurt, the fear that maybe I wasn't cut out for this hurt. And here's what Gaiman taught me. That was okay. Feeling that pain didn't make me weak. Crying in my car didn't make me a failed trader. Being scared didn't disqualify me from success. What would have broken me was letting that pain change who I was as a trader. If I had responded to that drawdown by abandoning my strategy, by revenge trading, by over-leveraging to make it back, I would have destroyed everything I'd built. But I didn't do that. I felt the pain fully. I acknowledged I was scared. And then, the next morning, I showed up and followed my process exactly as I had before. I didn't increase my position size. I didn't change my strategy. I didn't take trades outside my plan, trying to get even. I just executed my small circle perfectly, accepted that outcomes were shikata ganai, and persevered with dignity. Here's what nobody tells you about drawdowns. They're not a sign that you're broken. They're pruning. Think about bonsai trees. These trees are deliberately exposed to harsh conditions, restricted water, aggressive pruning, intense sun, and that doesn't kill them. It makes them stronger, more resilient, more beautiful. They develop deeper roots. They become more resistant to future stress. The same is true for traders. The drawdown you're experiencing right now, the one that feels like it's going to destroy you, it's pruning. It's forcing you to examine every part of your process, to cut away what doesn't work, to develop deeper roots in your fundamentals. But only if you persevere with dignity. Only if you refuse to let the pain turn you into someone you're not. When you're in a drawdown, here's your Gaiman protocol. First, you acknowledge the pain. You don't suppress it. You might need to cry. You might need to take a day off. You might need to talk to someone who understands. That's not weakness. That's being human. Second, you separate the pain from your identity. The fact that you're down 15% doesn't mean you're a bad trader. It means you're experiencing variance, which every successful trader experiences. Third, you show up the next day and execute your process perfectly, not a modified process, not a revenge process, your actual tested, proven process. This is what separates traders who survive from traders who implode. The survivors understand that trading is not about never suffering. It's about suffering without being broken. It's about maintaining your dignity, your character, your process, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. Because here's the truth. If you can maintain your process through a 20% drawdown, you become the kind of trader who can compound capital for decades. But if you let the drawdown turn you into a revenge trader, an over-leverager, a strategy hopper, then it doesn't matter how good your analysis is. You're finished. Now let's talk about how to actually implement this in your daily trading. And because philosophy is useless without application. The first thing you need to do is hard code the 10-second gap into your routine. And I mean literally hard code it. If you're using a trading platform, create a physical ritual before every execution. Some traders put a sticky note on their monitor that says 10 seconds, Some set up a timer on their phone. I personally have a rule. Before I click buy or sell, I have to stand up, take 3 steps back from my desk, count to 10 out loud, and then return to my desk. It sounds ridiculous. It feels awkward at first, but it works because it creates an unavoidable pause between the stimulus, the setup I see, and my response, the execution of the trade. During those 10 seconds, your only job is to check your small circle. Does this trade fit my strategy? Yes or no? Is my position size correct according to my risk management rules? Yes or no? Is my stop loss placed according to my plan? Yes or no? Is my take profit logical based on the structure? Yes or no? If all answers are yes, you execute. If even one answer is no, you don't trade. It's that simple. But that simplicity only works if you have the 10-second gap. Without it, you're trading on impulse, on fear, on FOMO. With it, you're trading on process. The second implementation is the daily review, but not the kind you're used to. Most traders review their P&L at the end of the day. They look at their profit or loss, they feel good or bad based on that number, and that's it. This is completely backwards. Your daily review should have nothing to do with your P&L. Instead, you rate yourself on 2 questions. How well did I maintain Fudoshin today? Meaning, when emotions arose, did I observe them without being controlled by them? And how well did I execute my small circle? Meaning, did I stick to my plan regardless of the outcome? You rate each question on a scale of 1 to 10. If you executed your small circle perfectly but still lost money, you give yourself a 10. If you abandoned your plan and got lucky with a win, you give yourself a 3. This shift is crucial because it changes your metric of success from something you don't control, the market's behavior, to something you do control, your own execution. Over time, this rewires your brain's reward system. You stop being addicted to green trades and start being committed to excellent process. Oh, and here's the paradox. When you stop obsessing over profits, your profitability improves. Because you're finally focusing on the only thing that actually creates long-term edge, consistent execution of a sound strategy. The third implementation is what I call the outcome-independent presence practice. At the end of each week, you write down one thing. This week, I maintained my presence and dignity while the following happened. Then you list everything: wins, losses, emotional challenges, whatever occurred. The point is to train yourself to measure success, not by what happened to you, but by how you showed up regardless of what happened. This is the final level of mental resilience. You reach a point where your peace, your self-worth, your confidence, none of it depends on whether the market went your direction. Because you've mastered the inner world. You've realized that you are not your P&L. You are the observer of your P&L, and that distinction changes everything. Here's what this all builds toward. Most traders spend their entire careers trying to control the market, trying to predict the unpredictable, trying to eliminate risk, trying to never feel fear. They're fighting a war they cannot win. But when you understand Fudoshin, Shikata Ganai, and Gaman, you stop fighting the war. You change the battlefield. You're no longer trying to control the market. You're controlling your response to the market. You're no longer trying to eliminate fear. You're observing fear without being controlled by it. You're no longer trying to avoid suffering. You're persevering through suffering with dignity. And the traders who make this shift, they're the ones still standing 10 years later. They're the ones compounding capital consistently. They're the ones who don't blow up during black swan events because they've already accepted that black swans are part of the large circle. They're the ones who can take a 30% drawdown and emerge stronger because they understand drawdowns are pruning, not punishment. They're the ones who can sit in a losing trade without panic and a winning trade without greed, because they've trained themselves to observe emotions without being hijacked by them. This is what mental resilience actually is. Not toughness, not fearlessness, not discipline through force. It's the ability to be fully present with whatever is happening. The fear, the greed, the uncertainty, the losses, the wins, while maintaining your process, your character, your dignity. It's the ability to accept that you control almost nothing about the market, but you control everything about how you show up to trade the market. And that acceptance, counterintuitively, is what sets you free. Because here's the final truth. Peace doesn't come from controlling the outside world. Every trader who chases that, trying to control outcomes, trying to force the market to behave, trying to eliminate uncertainty, ends up exhausted, broke, and broken. Peace comes from mastering the inner world, from building an immovable mind that can weather any storm, from focusing all your energy on your small circle while accepting the large circle with radical grace, from persevering with dignity when everything feels impossible. That's the edge nobody talks about. That's the difference between the 10% who make it and the 90% who don't. And now you know exactly how to build it. But knowledge without implementation is just entertainment. So here's what happens next. You're going to face a test, probably today, maybe tomorrow, but soon. You're going to enter a trade, and it's going to move against you immediately. Or you're going to miss a perfect setup because you hesitated. Or you're going to close a winner too early out of fear it'll reverse. And in that moment, you'll have a choice. You can react the way you've always reacted, with panic, with frustration, with that sick feeling in your stomach that makes you want to close your platform and never trade again. Or you can do something different. You can stop for 10 seconds. You can locate where the emotion lives in your body. You can observe it without judgment. You can ask yourself, what part of this is in my small circle? And then you can act, not react, based on your plan, not your panic. That single moment, that single choice to pause instead of react is where everything changes. Because you're not just making a better trading decision. You're rewiring a neural pathway. You're training your brain that emotions don't have to control your actions. You're proving to yourself that you can feel fear and still execute your process. But here's what most traders don't understand about this transformation. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. There's no single trade where you suddenly get it and everything clicks into place. It happens in 1,000 small moments that nobody sees. It's the Tuesday morning when you're down 2% on the week and you still risk exactly 1% on your next trade instead of 3% to make it back. It's the Friday afternoon when you hit your daily loss limit and you close your platform instead of taking just one more trade. It's the Sunday night when you review your losers and instead of beating yourself up, you calmly identify what was in your control and what wasn't. These moments feel insignificant when they're happening. They don't feel like progress. They feel like you're barely holding on, like you're fighting just to stay in the game. But this is exactly what gammon looks like in practice. This is perseverance with dignity. You're not celebrating. You're not posting victory screenshots. You're just showing up, executing your process, and refusing to let the difficulty break who you are as a trader. And the compound effect of these unglamorous moments, that's what builds the kind of mental fortress that can withstand anything the market throws at you. Let me tell you about something that happened 6 months ago that crystallized all of this for me. I took a trade on the S&P 500. Perfect setup. Institutional buying at a key level. Price action confirmation. Volume supporting the move. I entered long with a 1.5% risk, targeting 4.5% reward. The trade was textbook. For 3 hours, it moved in my direction. I was up 3%, just 1.5% away from my target. My account was glowing green. I could already feel that dopamine hit, that validation that I was right about the market. Then news broke, and the Fed chairman made an unexpected hawkish comment in what was supposed to be a casual interview. The market reversed violently. Within 10 minutes, my 3% gain evaporated. The price blew through my entry and hit my stop loss. I went from being up 3% to being down 1.5%, a 4.5% swing in 10 minutes. And here's what happened in my mind. Absolutely nothing. I watched the stop get hit. I closed the platform. I went to make coffee. There was no anger, no frustration, no narrative about how unfair it was, no impulse to immediately find another trade to make it back, because I had internalized shikata-ganai. The Fed chairman's comment, large circle, can't control it. The market's reaction, large circle, can't control it. Whether my trade hit target or stop, large circle, I never controlled it. The only thing in my small circle was this. I executed my entry perfectly. I placed my stop according to my plan. I let the trade run without interference. And when the stop was hit, I accepted the loss and moved on. That's it. That's all I ever controlled. And here's the powerful part. 3 hours later, I took another trade. Same strategy, different setup. This one hit my target. I made 4.5%. For the day, I was up 3%. But the profit wasn't what mattered. What mattered was that I had proven to myself that I could take a brutal loss, the kind that used to ruin my entire week, and not have it affect my next decision. I had separated my emotional state from the market's behavior. The loss didn't make me scared. The win didn't make me confident. I was the same trader executing the same process regardless of outcomes. And this is what outcome-independent presence actually feels like. It's not that you don't care about profits. You do. You're here to make money. But your self-worth, your confidence, your mental state, none of it fluctuates with your P&L anymore. You've anchored yourself to something the market can't touch, your execution quality. And paradoxically, this is when you start making consistent money, because you're no longer trading to feel good about yourself. You're no longer revenge trading after losses or overtrading after wins. You're just executing your edge over and over with the emotional consistency of a machine, but the wisdom of someone who understands that suffering and uncertainty are not obstacles to success. They're the price of admission. Now, there's one more layer to this that we need to address. Yeah, because even after you've built this mental framework, even after you can observe emotions without being controlled by them, even after you've accepted what you can't control, you're still going to face moments that feel impossible. Moments where the philosophy seems inadequate for the magnitude of what you're experiencing. I'm talking about the real catastrophes. The flash crash that blows through your stop and slips you an extra 5%. The broker error that costs you thousands. The black swan event that cuts your account in half overnight. The year-long drawdown that makes you question whether your strategy even works anymore. These aren't normal bad trades. These are the events that break traders permanently. And here's the uncomfortable truth. All three philosophies, Fudoshin, Shikata-ganai, and Gaman, they're specifically designed for these moments, not for the everyday losses. Those are easy once you have the framework. These philosophies exist for the catastrophes, for the moments when your entire trading career feels like it's hanging by a thread. I know this because I lived through one. In early 2020, I had built my account to $47,000. I'd been consistently profitable for 18 months. I had a proven strategy, solid risk management. Everything was working. Then March happened. The COVID crash. I was holding 3 positions when the market opened with a gap down so violent that my stops, which should have protected me at 1.5% loss each, slipped to 8%, 11%, and 9% respectively. In one morning, I lost $13,000. My account dropped from $47,000 to $34,000. 28% gone in 2 hours. I sat at my desk, completely numb. Yeah, this wasn't supposed to happen. I had stops in place. I had followed my risk management perfectly. I had done everything right, and I still lost more in one day than I'd made in 6 months. The large circle had just taught me a brutal lesson. Sometimes even your small circle gets invaded by chaos you never saw coming. And in that moment, I had to make a choice. I could let this break me. I could tell myself the game was rigged, that you can't protect yourself, that even perfect execution isn't enough. I could close my account and walk away. Or I could practice gaming at a level I'd never had to before. I chose gaming, but not the kind you see in motivational posts. I didn't stay strong or keep my head up. I fell apart. I called my mentor and I cried on the phone for 20 minutes. I took 3 days off from trading. And I let myself feel the full weight of what had happened. The fear, the sense of unfairness, the anger at the slippage, the doubt about whether I could continue. I didn't suppress any of it. But on the 4th day, I did something crucial. I separated what happened from who I was. What happened was a black swan event with catastrophic slippage. That was reality. Who I was remained unchanged. A trader with a proven edge, with tested risk management, with the mental tools to persevere. The event was in the large circle. I couldn't control it, couldn't have predicted it, couldn't have prevented it. But my response was in the small circle, and I controlled that completely. So I made a decision. I would rebuild. Not by changing my strategy, and not by taking bigger risks to make it back faster, but by executing the exact same process that had gotten me to $47,000 in the first place. Just starting from $34,000. It took me 11 months to get back to where I was. 11 months of perfect execution to recover from 2 hours of market chaos. And you know what I discovered during those 11 months? That was the most important period of my trading career. Not because of the money I made back, but because I proved to myself that catastrophe couldn't break me. I had experienced the worst case scenario, the scenario that every trader fears, the one where even perfect risk management fails. And I hadn't just survived it. I had persevered through it with dignity. When I finally crossed back above $47,000, I didn't celebrate. I just noted it in my journal. Rebuilt. Took 11 months. Her process works even through catastrophe. Because that's what Gaiman teaches you. The goal isn't to avoid suffering. The goal isn't to never experience catastrophic losses. The goal is to maintain your dignity, your process, your character, when catastrophe inevitably arrives. And once you've done that, once you've survived your black swan and come out the other side without being broken, you become a different kind of trader. You become someone the market can't intimidate because you've already seen the worst it can do. This is the final level of mental resilience. It's not built in good times. It's forged in fire. Every trader who's made it long-term has a story like mine. A moment when everything fell apart, when the philosophy was tested to its absolute limit, when quitting seemed like the most rational choice. And they all made the same decision: to feel the pain completely, to acknowledge the unfairness, and then to show up the next day and execute their process anyway. Not because they're special, but because they understood that trading is not about avoiding catastrophe. It's about being the kind of person who can walk through catastrophe and emerge stronger. So when your catastrophe comes, and it will come, remember this: you are not your losses. You are not your drawdown. You are not your slippage, or your blown stops, or your worst trading day. You are the person who shows up anyway. You are the observer of the chaos, not the chaos itself. You are the trader who maintains dignity when everything else is falling apart. And that identity, that unshakable core, that's the only edge that matters. Because anyone can execute a strategy when times are good. Anyone can follow their plan when trades are going their way. The real question is, who are you when everything goes wrong? When the market humbles you? When your account is bleeding? When every rational voice says to quit? That's when you discover whether you've built mental resilience or just borrowed it from a good run. And the only way to build the real thing is through exactly what you're experiencing right now. The difficulty, the uncertainty, the fear. This isn't the obstacle to your success. This is the forging process. You came here thinking mental resilience meant toughness, that if you just pushed harder, disciplined yourself more, controlled your emotions better, you'd finally break through to consistent profitability. But that's not how this works. That's why most traders burn out chasing an impossible standard. What you understand now is completely different. Mental resilience isn't about controlling your emotions. It's about observing them without being hijacked. It's not about predicting the market. It's about accepting that 90% of trading exists in a circle you'll never control, and focusing all your energy on the 10% you do. It's not about avoiding suffering. It's about persevering through drawdowns, slippage, and catastrophe, without letting any of it break who you are as a trader. Fudoshin taught you that the 10-second gap between feeling panic and reacting to panic is where profitable traders live. Shikata Ganai showed you that peace comes from mastering your execution, not controlling outcomes. And Gaiman revealed that your worst trading moments aren't obstacles. They're the forging process that builds the only edge that actually matters. This isn't motivation. This is a system. And now you have it. The next time you're staring at a losing position and your heart is racing, you know exactly what to do. Stop, observe, locate the emotion one breath, then decide based on your plan, not your panic. That's the practice. That's how you build an immovable mind. The market will test you. It always does. But you're no longer trying to control what it does. You're controlling who you are in response to what it does. And that shift changes everything. This is Trader's Bible. Thanks for being here.